All right, welcome to December's member-only podcast here inside of the Practice community. This is the monthly member-only interview series where I get to hang out with our members and people doing what I think are pretty awesome things in the world. Fellow practitioners, healers, coaches, everything in between. And today's guest is one of my very favorite people. This is Laura Haug, and she is a friend, client, student, mentee, graduate, everything in between. Awesome, badass woman. And I'm super excited to have her here on the show. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Good. How do you like that introduction? Think you can follow that?
I hope so. I'll try.
Okay, good. Well, let me key you in. So I have had the pleasure of getting to know Laura's work over the last couple of years. And I remember the first time meeting her, watching this trepidatious, hesitant, but I could tell very powerful individual come across my path. And I remember thinking, I'm going to keep an eye on you because there's something really incredible about you. And I can't wait for you to see that. And I've had the pleasure of watching her just shake her life loose in so many different ways. Holy moly. Relationships, business, even where she lives in the last, even just 6 months. Look at her shaking her head. She's like, yeah, it's been it's been a doozy. And what I love about it is it's landed you, what I feel like is in this place of just total truthfulness. And I'm excited to see you lead your work from that place. And so I think this is the perfect time to have you on the show. For anyone who is watching who feels like, how do I know if I'm on the right path? How do I know when something else is calling me that I need to say yes to? How do I trust those big, risky decisions that I don't know how to say yes, but I absolutely have to? Then Laura is your girl. So, Laura, tell us a little bit about the evolution of your work. So you've landed in this really cool sweet spot with it, but I know it hasn't always been that way for you. So in your own words, how did you get to what you're doing? And also share a little bit about what you are doing now.
Oh man, that feels a little bit like a loaded question right now. I will start with kind of how I got here. My background is actually in mass communications. So I went to school to be originally a journalist. I wanted to be a news anchor. So I've worked at radio stations, TV stations. I've done a load of video projects all through college. That's what I was gearing to do. I actually moved out to LA right after college to be in entertainment. So that is my background. As I was in LA for 10 years, 8 of those years doing post-production work in LA. And how I got to what I'm doing is through burnout.
Different worlds.
Complete and utter burnout. All the health issues. And I remember being at the last job that I had out there and just sitting down with myself and going, okay, I either end up in the hospital with the way that I'm going, with who knows what, or I quit and I go pursue something else. And that had led up to right before that, I had taken a yoga teacher training, my 200-hour certification, and I took it just for me. I just wanted to fill up, to do something kind for myself, to be a little selfish and just like do something that, oh, this is so frivolous, and yet I need to do it for me. And what came from that was, I think I'm supposed to teach yoga, and I think there's this whole other world, and I think I have all these natural gifts and talents that I've been using in every job that I had ever been in, but that maybe I wanted to do it in a different way that fulfilled me a bit more instead of completely drained me. So that's what's led to me being a 500-hour yoga practitioner and a Reiki master. And through your program, which is, I love you, but it's the longest name ever. I can't even remember it, but I'm a transformational life coach, facilitator. I don't know, but it's
something like that.
Something like that, and it was incredible. And so now I've just kind of collected all of these new tools and techniques that I get to use with clients. And so what that's led to now is I love to use life coaching as the umbrella. I love to be able to just have a conversation with someone, and from that point, really use the tools that I have to help them continue turning inward and trusting themselves and tapping in more to their intuition and seeing what they need in order to find more fulfillment in their life.
Wonderful. Yes. And I know your story a little bit about the burnout and tripping into this work from that place. And I also know that it took you a while to fully own the gifts that you have to offer. Tell us a little bit about, because there's a lot of people in our group that are at that pivot point of self-acceptance inwardly, and then that external expression of this is the thing I'm going to be in the world. What was that pivot like for you from I'm doing this for me to, oh my gosh, I'm also doing this for others?
Oh, what was that pivot point? I think it was once I started down that yoga path and seeing that I had this new tool to offer people, I started reflecting on my whole life and realizing that's the person I've always been, is being able to support others with advice or a new perspective or just to hold space for someone, and realizing that not everyone had that gift. And then the more people I was introduced to through yoga, my students through that, they would always get that same feedback. They're like, there's just something a little different. There's just the way that you show up. And sorry, this is dinging and I thought I closed it out. I'm sorry.
Right. Universe saying, yes, that. Do more of that.
And I don't know why it's not closing out. Maybe it's there just to keep confirming. But yeah, I think it was just that looking back and going, oh, wait, there's maybe something here that is a natural talent of mine that I've been overlooking, and that maybe I could actually get paid for this in some way, shape, or form. And how do I want that to look? And I think it's just been a constant needing to show up for myself has been the pivot point of seeing how am I showing up for others? And then how can I also apply that to show up for myself and see where that wants to lead and guide me?
Where has it led and guided you, especially this year? And we haven't even gotten into all the amazing transitions that you have gone through. I love that dinging is going to happen. I think we should let it happen. It's such an indication of like affirmation.
I keep closing it out. I don't know why it's not quitting. So yeah, we're just
such a metaphor for life. I keep ignoring this thing that's trying to get my attention and it won't shut up, which is exactly what happened to you this year. All right. That's our transition.
It is.
Thank you, universe.
Yeah.
Tell us about and I was so honored I happened to be teaching you at the time and you were in my program. And so that was paralleling. So I got to witness one of what I think was the bravest, most courageous acts of choice and self-choosing that I've ever seen someone take. And I'll let you fill in the gaps, but tell us about your pivot this year and not just what got you there, but how you got through it and where it's landed you.
So much. Okay. So, yes. All right. Last year, I started your program, Awaken Your Life, and I knew it was going to shake me up, and I didn't know how. I thought it was going to go in one direction, and it went in a different. And that first retreat, I remember breaking down so hard, and you being such a mirror for me to help me see that the relationship that I was in with my ex-fiance was just something I needed to look a little more into. And the seeds that were planted at that retreat. Last year I was planning a wedding, and I called it off this year. And I was 4 months out from it and knew that the wedding had to end and knew that the relationship needed to end. And that looking back, it was an 8-year relationship. Looking back on the 8 years together, I had made every change possible. I had changed jobs. I had started a business. I had changed friends. I had let go of friends. I had made every change. I had moved across the country with him. And the one thing that wasn't changing were certain aspects in that relationship of me not being able to fully be myself and be loved and accepted for that, to the extent that I needed it to be. And so that shift had to happen. And here I thought I was taking your course to build my business, and I did. It just came in a different way than I wanted it to happen, but yet the freedom that I was seeking was by standing up for myself and saying, this isn't working and marriage is not going to fix this. And I'm not going to be blind to that anymore. I'm gonna do this for both of us. And it was obviously super challenging. And how I got through that was with the AYL group, of having that support, of leaning on that group, of feeling emotionally supported in ways that I hadn't fully realized or even experienced before. So I kind of had to call on this like army of people to support me through that transition. And I'm grateful. He's much happier. I'm much happier. We ended on beautiful terms and have a lot of love and respect for each other. And I attribute so much of that too, of like my own personal growth, of being able to approach it in a way of, this is for both of us. This is we're both not happy and we both can't continue ignoring this. So yeah, that was kind of the huge pivotal point. And then from that, the past 9 months have been me traveling. So I've been living out of a suitcase for the past 9 months, and I landed in Portland, and actually this weekend is the weekend that like I really get to start kind of settling into my new place for a bit. And it feels like the thought I've had recently is that the last 9 months, like that seed I planted of ending that relationship, of calling off the wedding, it's that birthing. Like there's been this 9-month creation, and here I'm finally getting to land and plant some new roots and have whatever possibilities I want kind of in front of me at the moment. And it's been even challenging just in this final push of like, let me get into a space and let me like start to not have to live out a suitcase. And what does that look like? And what does the next level of my business look like? And so I'm really curious to see what is being birthed right now in my life. It's exciting and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Rightfully so. I mean, you're living a reality that wasn't on the docket even 12 months ago, even 6 months ago. So, and we land in these places and go, oh, this is interesting. I hadn't quite thought this is where I would end up, but here I am. I guess I should unpack some stuff and settle in and see what's ahead of me.
Yeah.
How has that experience impacted or just affected the way that you practice your work?
Huge. It helped me dive so much deeper into how being a highly sensitive person shows up in my life, and how that's been the consistent theme of what I've seen through everyone that I've worked with over the past 5 years is there's this empathic nature, this highly sensitive nature that until we can fully understand it, it doesn't really make sense why we show up and how we show up and what needs we have and why we need them and how do we feel safe and what do we need to thrive, and really kind of just owning that and feeling worthy and deserving to take up space and to ask for the things that we need and want. And by accessing that through my life, I've been able to help others tap into their own inner strength and inner power, and to make challenging decisions, but that feel right for them and that they get excited about and empowered about, and just calling me going, I've never been able to say anything like that before. I've never been able to stand up for myself that way. And that feels huge to me, because I feel like that's the imbalance of kind of our world right now, is that we have these intuitive, highly sensitive people that are so talented and gifted, and yet they don't feel good enough or worthy enough. And yet they're the key, they're the missing piece. And we have to empower them. That's who I want to be empowering, to help them rise up so that we can bring more of this balance into the world.
Yeah. So many of the members in our community, I think, would self-define as a highly sensitive person, myself included. And it was something that I genuinely didn't know about myself. And I knew I was sensitive, as you've shared. You've always known you were sensitive. But I always assumed it was this like really awful curse. Like I couldn't be in certain environments, and loud sounds would make me recoil, and I couldn't be in large groups for long periods of time. And that's like the surface stuff. And then those empathetic ability to absorb without discernment or recognition that I'm absorbing other people's stuff and stories. Yeah. So how do you help empower highly sensitive people? What does that look like?
Man, that's so different with every person. It is so different. I think there's a little bit of a process for me of there just has to be that basis connection of hearing them and seeing where are they at in this moment. What are they dealing with? How can I acknowledge and validate that they're not crazy and everything that they're feeling and experiencing? From that point, I start giving them tools and techniques and creating a personal practice, and start getting them implementing on a daily basis more awareness and observation of how are they feeling. Because being a highly sensitive person, being empathic, we typically, we're taking on so much from other people. We don't even know where that line is of what I feel and what someone else is feeling that I'm picking up on. So helping them start to identify where that line is, helping them, like by being able to listen to someone's story, I can see and hear their perspective, or hear how their intuition might be speaking to them in ways that maybe they hadn't noticed yet. So just kind of that first aspect of holding space. And then from there we can dig into, I feel like I've got three little pillars of transformation that I gleaned from, that was my huge takeaway from the program, of what is my process for transformation, or what do I see as the process? And that being, we first have to be honest with ourselves. Like even being honest about, I'm highly sensitive and I hate it. Can I just acknowledge that? Can I just acknowledge that side of it? And also, can I acknowledge the side of it that I love and how I'm able to connect deeply with people? So whatever the honesty is in whatever situation, it's being honest with it. And when we can access that honesty, then we can begin to open up into, what are all of my choices? Because that's where we get to feel empowered, is knowing that we have choices, and what choices do we want to make and why are we making them? And then from that place, we can begin to experience more freedom and be able to receive what it is that we want. And if we get to that receiving and we're not liking what we're getting, we get to go back and, let's be honest, maybe what part of that is or isn't working. Let's be open again into what the choices are, and then let's be free.
I love that. Thank you for sharing those. And I'll make sure we put a link to, are those anywhere on your website, or have you created anything with them yet?
Not yet. It's still so new. I mean, there's still so much percolating right now that's come from this year that hasn't been manifested yet. And I know that it can't be manifested yet until I plant some roots and I get settled. But that's just kind of the evolution right now of figuring out what I want to do with that and what that looks like and feels like.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great example of giving yourself permission to take the spaciousness that sometimes these new things require, and that we don't rush through a process when it's equally teaching you in the moment as much as it will teach those who get to go through that process with you.
Totally. Yeah.
Do you think it's important that we help highly sensitive people be comfortable with their sensitivity?
Yeah.
Why does that matter? And I bring this because there's that opposite feeling of we need to bolster it or boundary it or protect it or shield it, versus we need to embrace it, integrate it, understand it. So how do we do that when the world feels like so frenetic sometimes? And I think this last couple of years, it's just felt so amplified. Everything feels amplified, and everything feels bigger and closer than it has at least in my life. And I don't know if you mirror that. And so how do we find the comfort amidst the chaos, which doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon?
Man, okay. So that acceptance piece, like, I think just acknowledging that we're sensitive and that we feel things and that we need the space to feel them, and that there's nothing wrong with feeling them. And it's one of the first things I learned in one of my trainings, which is when you block the bad or the negative emotions, you also block the good. So if we are resisting this intensity that we're feeling, then we're resisting the ability to go deeper into the fulfillment and the joy and the happiness that we're seeking. So if we can just acknowledge and accept that I'm going to feel this way, and what do I need to be able to feel this way? Do I need to be by myself? Do I need to have friends that understand me? Who do I need to start building up around me as the support system so that I can be okay accessing this level? Because my perspective, my belief is that when we're this tapped in and we feel the energy on that level, we're not just processing it for ourselves, we're processing it for the collective. We're processing it for our communities and the people around us, because the energy is just so deep. It's so intense. And I think that's why we've been called to be here now, is to help finally shed the light on these intense emotions. But they can't, if we don't feel them, then they have nowhere to go. So we have to let them flow. And then from there, we can experience like the expansion within us of, like, the more anger that can flood through us, the more sadness, the more grief, then the more we get to feel our hearts expanding, because then we know this is how much more I'm capable of handling now. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, it's almost like you're saying, when we allow ourselves to be in with whatever form of suffering we're tapped into, grief, anger, frustration, resentment, it stretches us. And in that capacity of being stretched, we get to fill that with more love, more compassion, more forgiveness, more comprehension. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, I mean, I and it's interesting we're talking about this, because I had yet another experience of that even just last week, of all of this anger, all of this rage surfacing, and I'm going, oh crap, like, I know this is happening for a reason. And then having a friend that I can call and talk to about it, and she just used the perfect term. She's like, this is sacred anger. This is sacred anger. Like, what's triggering it? What's the passion behind it? Like, because the anger is fueling something that I value and is getting me passionate about something, but I have to first acknowledge how angry I am about something. And after just going into it and allowing that to just be a part of me, I took a nap, because sometimes we have to check out and process and integrate.
Yeah, side note, when overwhelmed, take a nap.
That's my go-to. I get the best insights after naps. It's like,
none of it's going away, so you may as well just go sleep, come back, deal with it later.
Exactly. Fuel up a little bit, power up.
Yes.
And when I woke up from that nap, it was a new level of feeling my heart expanding, of going, I got this. I can handle more now, because I just handled more with the negative, the sacred anger. It's like I could handle that. Now I can handle more love. Now I can not just handle receiving it, but I can give more of it now. And so, yeah, I think the stretching us, thank you for taking that from what I said. That's basically what sums it up. It's the emotions allow us to stretch ourselves.
I think that's a great reduction. I love that. I'm going to write that down. Emotions allow us to stretch ourselves, and they do. And because pain does stretch us, it stretches us to a brink that we don't even know we have the capacity for, because we don't want the capacity for pain. It's painful. And we think if we get bigger with pain, we're going to feel more pain. But the caveat is we also get to feel more love, more of the influx of goodness that comes with having come so close to suffering. You don't come away from that without an appreciation for the good.
Yeah. Well, and even just the extent of the pain, it's like we don't want to feel it because we're afraid it's going to hurt, but we're already hurting. So why not just let it flow? Like,
exactly.
Quit resisting it and just let it take over sometimes.
Yeah. And I think if you're a highly sensitive person, it's the resistance of your sensitivity and what it's tuned into that I think can cause more damage than whatever it is you're feeling. Because whatever it is we're feeling, and correct me here if I'm wrong, in my experience, what we're experiencing in that moment, it's just an interpretation. And we get to enmesh with it, or we get to not enmesh with it. And we get to say, wow, I see you, I feel you, but I'm not going to own you, but I can support you from over here. But I'm going to get big enough that you have a safe space to ping around in, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And I think also to add to that, there's this element of we need to figure things out. We need to know what this is and where this is coming from. And I think we can sometimes have that default mode of what have I done wrong to feel this, when it's not really doing anything wrong, but that we're picking up on not just what we might be feeling, we're picking up on the people around us, we're picking up on the collective conscious energy, we're picking up on things that are going on with astrology and just the energy, like everything. We could be feeling all of those things all at once, and then we sit here and we think, well, it's me. What have I done? And it's like, you're just the conduit. Like you actually don't have to figure it out. So yeah, what you're saying is that is the differentiation of like, is this mine? Is this not? And can I just be big enough to hold the space?
Thank you for that. And do you have any, not that I never want to deduct stuff down to tips or tricks, but I'm going to ask you to deduct down to some tips and tricks. That's my little, if I put an asterisk on this, I get to do this, even though I don't recommend doing this. However, do you have any tips for helping us discern between what is ours and what is not ours, but that we're tuning into?
Yeah. Yes. I think the first thing that comes to mind is the question, is this mine?
I love it.
Because it serves for two things. It helps to build your intuition. Like you start to build trust with yourself and going, and then just asking the question, is this mine? Yes or no? Or maybe some of it is. And then getting to set that intention of, great, what do I want to do with this now? If this is mine, how do I want to handle it? If it's not, how can I lovingly release this and let it go and trust that it can be transformed or transmuted into something good, but that I no longer have to hold on to it.
Great. So yeah, is this mine? And then trusting what comes up. Yes, no, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten an I don't know?
I don't think I have. I think it's always a pretty clear yes or no, or some of it is and some of it isn't.
Yeah.
Is typically what I'm picking up on. But starting out, I mean, if people aren't connected with their feelings or emotions at all, I think that could be a very common. And then to trust that and to keep asking and then to keep trusting, because that's the only way we can start to really trust ourselves, is by asking ourselves those questions and then seeing what the answer, how it unfolds and unravels from that.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about your business.
Okay.
So Laura has what I think is one of the coolest business names ever. And when she told me about it, I was like, wow, that's incredible. And what I love about it is it speaks to the just the genuineness of her work, that fierceness that I think you bring, but it also has a very personal meaning to you. I get asked all the time, should I name my business me or should I give it a name? I mean, I get asked this constantly. And Laura's the first person I know who's been able to do both, because the name she came up with for her business is a family name. Am I correct? It comes from your family. And it also has just this like rich connotation that comes alongside it. So tell us the name of I know this is a new name for your business.
Yes. So my business name is Kicklighter.
That's so cool. Sorry, it gets me every time. I'm like, oh, she nailed it. She totally nailed it. How did you come into saying, that's it, that's what I have to move into in my business?
Oh, I think it found me a little bit. So the story is the name that I had before. I just wasn't feeling it for a while, and it didn't feel like me. It didn't feel like the direction I was going, even though I wasn't fully sure which direction I was going. And then, so I'd played around with a bunch of different names. Should I just use my name? Should I, it was a source of frustration. And then this year, around end of June, my mom and I drove from St. Louis to Portland. So we road tripped out to Portland to help me start my new life. And on the way out here, we stayed in Spokane, Washington, where I have 2 aunts that live there. And so we stayed with one of my aunts, and she was telling me this story about my grandma Martha, who is one of my spirit guides. She's one of my angels. She works with me all the time. And so I already have a connection with her. And so my aunt was telling me that my grandma Martha had been adopted, and that the name that we knew her as, her last name was Kale, but that her last name before she was adopted was Kicklighter. And I just had full body chills when I heard it. And I was like, oh, I think that's my business name. Like, and so I just let it sit for several months. And then I was talking to a friend about it and talking about my business and where I'm going and what I do for people. And I told her that name, and it just all clicked. It was like, of course, this is what I do. I kickstart people's inner light. Like, I'm a kicklighter. That's what I'm doing. Like, of course, that's part of my family. Of course, Grandma Martha's been with me this whole time.
Yeah.
Of course, she's been guiding me and leading me and getting me to this point. And I just had to be patient enough to listen to the signs and to continue to trust my intuition through all of it. Because even the day after I had called off the wedding, and I was at my parents' house, and I woke up and it snowed, and I went and I looked out the back porch, and there was beautiful snow, and there was this red cardinal that was just sitting there, and it was beautiful. And it turns out my grandma Martha loved cardinals, and that's like her way that she kind of likes to come talk to us and let us know that she's around. And so it was like, I just feel like she's been a part of this whole journey. And yeah, so that's Kicklighter, and that's what I feel like I do, is I just help restart or just kick on that inner light that people already have within them that they've forgotten about or is hidden or just needs a little reignition.
Yes, fantastic. And I'll make sure to put in the show notes the link to your new website that's just like ruminates with all that you were talking about. And I bring this up because I think when you're a service practitioner, the business of naming your business has, in my very, very biased and personal opinion, I think it has more weight than we think it does. And I want to hear your opinion on this, because I feel like the business name is the doorway to our process and to our expression of our work in the world. And it has resonance, and it has its own formation and expression. And it isn't just about having a quirky name or something marketable or even speaking to what you do, which I think a lot of businesses are very literal, or they try and be really meta. They get really like big picture. But when we bring it down to this place of embodiment, what do I as a practitioner and a person of service embody through my work? And chances are, if you're called to service, there is some name in your lineage that speaks to that. Kicklighter. My middle name, Lita, means small winged one. I mean, there are these little nuggets and trinkets that I think have been left. And I wish more practitioners would stop looking outside themselves for that perfect brand and look inside themselves for where they come from. Does that resonate when I say that to you?
Yes. And I think it's a process. Like, I think I couldn't have accessed that when I first started because I didn't know how I worked with people. I came up with a name of, what do I want? Like, my name before was Golden 8 Healing. Well, it started out as Golden 8 Yoga. And it started out as that because 8 was my favorite number. 8, there are 8 limbs of yoga. The 8 on its side is the infinity sign. And then I wanted something bright and shiny and golden. And it's like, yeah, so that had its purpose and its place. And that's what I needed then. And then as things evolve, now I'm really excited about this new phase. But yeah, using my name for some reason, I never wanted to do that. But that doesn't mean to say that that's not what someone else needs for them. So I 100% agree, like, turn inward, find out what lights you up, what resonates for you and what you're going to be happy with, and let it kind of speak from there.
Yeah, absolutely. What are you excited to explore through your work and this new brand in 2019?
Oh man, I think it's still working through me. I've got so many different ideas. I think intuition is going to be a huge part in it. It's funny how once I put that name out there, how it already started working on me on a new level. And I'm like, oh crap. Like, oh crap, here we go again. Here's the next level. Here's the next phase. This is what I'm helping people do. And it's helping me continue to go deeper and deeper and deeper and see what's the next layer of that inner light within me that wants to come out and wants to be shared. And so simultaneously I'm kicking others on and I'm kicking myself on too. So I think the business is going to kind of take on its own shape and form and guide me and lead me. And I have to just be open and trusting of that right now. So it doesn't quite answer your question, but because I think it hasn't revealed itself yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it tells all those who are listening that our businesses have their own timing. So we have our, thing. That's right. I just got a hallelujah from the universe.
That was great.
That was really beautifully timed. I feel like our businesses are these creative expressions that move through us, and they have their own timing. And then we have our very personal, more egoic, self-discerned timing. Like, I need this for this reason: security, money, affirmation, whatever. And the business says, yeah, but I kind of need this for self-expression, creativity, healing, collective consciousness, whatever. And they don't always match. And I think it's important that when they don't match, we back off, right? And I love that you're saying, I don't know yet. It's working on me. And I am open and I am intuitive, and I will know when it's time. And it will. So how do you know when an idea drops in that you have to take action on?
My nature is that as soon as I get an idea, I want to take action on it.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. And I know how to do all the things, and I can make stuff happen because I have a history of being able to make things happen. And the test has been more letting it percolate and letting it sit and letting it see where it wants to go, and to just let it breathe a little bit before I might take action. But it's typically just like when I know it's time to move forward, it's that I'm really excited to move forward on it and I want to work on it. And I think if I'm dragging my feet around something, it's not time. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be working on that. I should be going in this direction, or I should be posting more, like, but I don't want to. So if I don't want to, like, where is the balance? And for me, I've really had to learn that, like, if I don't want to, it's because that is my intuition speaking, that like, it's not time. Because when I want to, it happens, and it happens fast, and it goes quickly and easily and smoothly. And it's then just the waiting that I have to start being more comfortable with.
Yeah. How are you learning to trust the waiting portion of that?
Well, I just went on a pretty epic trip to England that was very spiritually guided and led. So that helped really solidify my intuition.
Yeah.
But for those that can't access that right now, man, I think it's just, it's starting with the, is this mine? It starts with just building the trust on the smallest of levels. Like, that's how I feel like I've been able to have more and more of these experiences, because I kept thinking I needed to have the big experience before I can know how to trust myself. But really, it's been the daily practice of every day sitting down with myself and going and doing energy clearing and doing a personal practice and journaling and going, is this mine? Is this someone else's? And how am I feeling in this moment? And what's happening? What's the subtle energy that I'm picking up from this person? And can I call it out and see if I'm accurate on what I'm feeling? Like, all of those start to just compound to then I get to experience more of the bigger moments of, oh, this is what happens when you really trust your intuition, you really find yourself in the flow, and you really just trust yourself. So it's trial and error. But it's starting, I think we really overlook the small scale items that we think aren't going to have an impact. And those are the ones that allow us to get to the bigger, I don't know, more impactful experiences. But it's all impactful. So
right. And I think it speaks, maybe I'm hearing you wrong, but I think it speaks a little bit to the reality too. And I'm seeing this with a lot of people in who have service businesses that I'm resonating with, at least, that things are speeding up and we don't necessarily have to match that pace. And I sometimes wonder if our this isn't even a word, our spaciousness, our spacious pace, by taking that, I just made that up, we're gonna roll with it, by taking a spacious pace with our work, I hope we can counterbalance this freneticness that can come from just speed. And saying, whoa, wait, stop, as one of my very dear friends loves to say, whoa, wait, stop. Can I put a little bit of a buffer in between how fast things are speeding up and how much I don't feel that I need to respond to that, but I need to hold a different energy, something a little more contrasting, something that gives people a place to nourish and rest and sit and find groundedness amongst it all. And if we're speeding up with it, I think it can give the people we work with, our clients and students, the impression that they also have to speed up, when sometimes what's needed is like, take a nap, take a breath, go for a walk, drink some water, metaphorically and literally speaking.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's the quickest way to get out of flow and to be disconnected from your intuition is comparing yourself and looking and saying, well, if someone else is, moving at this pace, then I need to, because that's how you're supposed to build a business and that's how things are going to grow, because that's how it's growing for them. But you're not them, and
Right.
they're not you.
Right.
And everyone's in their own season at a different time. And
Yeah.
that's been my biggest pitfall, is doing that for far too long, of looking at others and going, well, if that's how they built their business, and that's how I should build mine. And, you want to listen to the people that have been or are where you want to go. And yet there's this piece of, yeah, but maybe that's not my way. And can I trust my way? Can I trust that I'll still get some good results by, doing the things that maybe aren't normal, or the pausing and the stopping and the breathing, and trusting that maybe is where I'm supposed to be right now. Because so many of us healers, we aren't taking care of ourselves.
It's the biggest irony, I gotta tell you. I have never met worse self-care practitioners than service practitioners. And I wish it were a joke, but we are terrible at taking care of ourselves. And yet
It's
we feel
amazing.
it is, isn't it? It's really, yeah. So what is your advice for that? Because there are some of us listening, myself included, that need to remind myself that taking care of my container is not an indulgence, and it's not a get to, it's a have to, and it's a requirement. But how do we get there?
I think it's just the constant reminding each other.
Yeah.
Like, that's why we need our people. That's why we need support. That's why, like, I don't know if we ever get there, but we're also unraveling how many centuries and lifetimes of patterns where this isn't okay. It's not okay to turn inward. It's not okay to stop and pause and take care of ourselves, because we're so used to taking care of everyone else.
Yeah.
I just think it's a consistent awareness and observation and catching ourselves when we're stepping out of the flow, and then having the people we need to call and go, I'm too in it. I can't see clearly. What do I need? And then oftentimes it's like, can you just take a deep breath? Can you just, I mean, how many times have I texted you and you're like, hey, why don't you just leave the room that you're in right now? Just change environments for a hot minute.
No, I want to fix this right now. Great. Breathe first. Just take one breath. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. Having those, like you called it, your army of support, having your
Army of support.
having your people in your corner that you can say, I'm railing against something, and they can say, awesome. Can you go outside for a second? And sometimes it's the most annoying advice, because it's right. And it's so simple in nature.
Feels more anger, but
that's not what I wanted. I wanted vindication. Nope, not going to give it to you. All right, Laura, I'm going to throw this question in there. This is not something that I sent you beforehand, but I'm having this intuition, and I want a ding from your little phone to tell me, yes, go there. Okay. Yeah, I'm not allowed to prompt them, but I know you're a very open channel, and I know that you are very connected, and I know that you receive so much incredible information and data, a lot of which I don't think you share. I think you're working on, putting it out there. Yeah. But in your opinion, what do you see some of the greatest opportunities for healers and light workers and service practitioners who are highly sensitive? What is our opportunity in the next year?
Ooh. There it is. You got it.
I got it. I didn't even make it happen. See, I could be texting her, but I didn't.
I had full body chills when you asked that one. Let's see what wants to come through. I'm just going to turn inward for a moment on that one to see.
Yes, I love that. I love that you're demonstrating that. Thank you.
Can you ask the question one more time?
Yeah. What is the opportunity for highly sensitive people of service in the coming year?
It feels like what is possible is just what we can't even imagine is possible. That if we can really do the work, turn inward, to trust ourselves, to follow every little inkling of intuition. Like, start with the smallest of scales, like waking up, what should I wear? What should I eat today? What's going to make me feel good? Who do I need to call in this moment? What do I like? Really observing how you feel in each moment, asking ourselves, is this mine? Is this someone else's? Calling our power back, literally saying, I call my power back to me now. Like, call it in, see it all come back into your power center. I think there could just be an energetic shifting that by us coming together and supporting each other in this way, and not comparing and not competing, trusting that there's enough, loving each other as deeply as we can, supporting each other through all of the emotions that we're experiencing. I don't even know if we can fathom what is possible from that. But I think it could happen across the board in every industry and it's like we have to trust where we're being led, and we have to let go of what we think it's going to look like or what we want it to look like. It's setting the intention of, I love this. I read this recently from Rebecca Campbell, and I've just been saying it every day, but it's allow me to be of service in a way that delights my mind, body, and soul. And as long as we're following what delights us, it might not look the way we think. And I know personally, I'm really having to break down of what delights my mind, body, and soul. Do I want to have a thriving, being an entrepreneur and have a business? Yes. What if that's not part of the plan? Can I be okay with that? What if I need to go get a job where I can go access more people? Maybe I need to work it a different way. Maybe it needs to look something different. How can I trust and let my ego step to the side and just get down to what it is that I actually need, which is freedom and appreciation and a voice and to be heard. Like, how can I tap into those things and trust that I'll be supported financially, and trust that I'll be serving my highest good, even though it might not look like what society looks, or even this industry portrays that we should be having these thriving businesses. Maybe it looks different. Maybe it's a blend. How can we really allow ourselves to be of service in a way that isn't a struggle, but that we can really just drop into the ease of it?
That feels like the most perfect parting advice for the year to come. And this episode is coming out in December. So we're nearing the solstice. We're nearing the close of another year. I thought of this the other day. I love the sweetness that Mother Nature adds to something like the solstice. You know, the longest day of the year is immediately followed by the returning of the light. And I love that arc as we move into January. So thank you for that little nugget. And I hope that our listeners rewind and re-listen to that. Yeah, what delights my mind, body, and soul, and listening to what presents itself and not making any preconceived assumption about what it's supposed to be, but what it gets to be instead. Yeah, beautiful. All right, Laura, how can our members connect with you or check out what you're doing in the world?
Yeah, thekicklighter.com.
Great.
You can email me through there or see what I'm up to. And that's the best way for people in Portland. I'm now starting to teach some classes at Yoga Refuge. Yes. So you can see me in person there. And then I'm working on coming up with workshops and retreats, and we'll see what other fun things want to be birthed during this time.
Fantastic. Happy birthing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciated to get just, what did you see? Nourishing, yummy, space giving, permission granting, universe dinging conversation. This has been, I can think of no better way to close out our year and this gift of space that we give our members. So thank you so much for being here, Laura. I wish you the absolute most fantastic, lovely entrance into 2019. And for those of you who are listening and getting to watch this recording live, thank you for being here. And we'll see you guys in a month. All right. Take care. Thank you. Bye.